In this video, I'm going to be going over the 3 books that helped me shape my business journey as a developer. And in this video, you're going to find that the books build up to the next book. And so hopefully that makes it much more understandable on how I went through this on my own. And so the first book is something called An E-Myth Revisited, as a book by Michael E. Gerber. And this book, the reason why I chose this is that it was the book that really made me realize the personal changes that I need to make when undertaking this journey or in making a small business. And in the book, he lays it out for you where most people who start a business isn't actually started by the entrepreneurs. It's started by the technicians who make things, who eventually falls for this fatal assumption that the technical skills alone are enough to run a successful business. And the problem is the kind of person who gets into business is actually three personalities in one. And that is the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. But without going and getting into details, what I really enjoy about the book is the 3 stages of growth, and particularly the infancy stage. The infancy stage is when you're doing everything by yourself. It's when you're working on the business consistently, pushing out a bunch of features, designing it as well. Then you realize that there are plenty of work that needs to be done and you could actually complete. The problem is that most technicians, when they are presented with work, they just eventually just go and do it head on. And in the book, he goes over this trap of the technician's trap. If you keep saying yes to the work that needs to be done, you're really saying no to the other things then that needs to be nourished in order to grow your business. But there's nothing wrong with enjoying the technical work. It is only a problem when the technician consumes all the other personalities, when the technician fills in your day with work, when the technician avoids the challenge of learning how to grow a business, when the technician shrinks from the entrepreneurial role so necessary to the lifeblood, the momentum of a truly extraordinary small business, and from the managerial role so critical to the operational balance or grounding of a small business on a day-to-day basis. And then Sarah replied, "But I can't imagine what my business would be like without me doing the work." He goes, "But don't you see, if your business depends on you, then you don't have a business, you have a job." Then Sarah replied, "I hate to beat a dead horse, but what if I want to do the technical work in my business? What if I don't want to do anything else?" "And for God's sakes," I said emphatically as I dared, "get rid of your business and get rid of it as quickly as you can, because you can't have it both ways. You can't have your pie and eat it too. You can't ignore the financial accountabilities, the marketing accountabilities, the sales and administrative accountabilities. You can't ignore your future employees' needs for leadership, for purpose, or for responsible management, for effective communication, for something more than just a job in which their sole purpose is to support you doing your job, let alone what your business needs from you if it's to thrive. That you understand the way a business works and the dynamics of a business, the cash flow, the growth, the customer sensitivity, the competitive sensitivity, and so forth." I could see Sarah was not yet totally convinced. You just can't get there from here. You can't play the role of the technician and ignore the roles of the entrepreneur and the manager simply because you're unprepared to play them. Because the moment you chose to start a small business, Sarah, you unwittingly chose to play a significantly larger game than any game you had ever played before. And to play this new game called building a small business that actually works, your entrepreneur needs to be coaxed out. It needs to be nourished and given the room she needs to expand. And your manager needs to be supported as well so she can develop the skill at creating order and translating the entrepreneurial vision into actions that can efficiently manifest into the real world. Look, but the thing is, the book is, I guess from where I'm at, it gives you this assumption that you know what to do in the very beginning of the business. Let's say you have a product. It gives you this assumption that you already have it all set out. The thing is, for me, I was ready, when I was reading this quote, I was ready to just fully start. But I wasn't really sure what to work on next. And that's why in the next book, really laid out for me what I should be focusing on, what my challenges are, what are my priorities are, and what are the skills that I need to develop. And that is the book. It's written by Michael Masterson. It's called Ready, Fire, Aim. This book gives you the overview of the game that you need to play. And in my stage, one of the key ideas that I want to share is that the first thing to do in this first stage is to sell. The first job above anything else, let's say you have a prototype. If you're building a product or a SaaS, your first job is to sell that thing. Because as he said here, above all the major functions of the business, the product, the customer service, the operations, and the marketing, the top priority should be marketing at this stage. But because without marketing, you will not have the sales. Without sales, you will not have the cash flow. And without the cash flow, you will not be able to pay for all the other functions. And except by going into debt, which is simply borrowing against the cash flow of the future. To put it differently, without sales, it is very hard to sustain an ongoing business. Consider this as the first rule of entrepreneurship, that before your business makes its first sale, it is nothing more than a set of unproven ideas that you're spending your money on. Some of those ideas may be good and feasible, and others may be bad or impractical. You can't know until you test them by selling the product. But I want to add onto this that it really lays out to you the challenges that you will face on the stage. And in the book, he points it out that your first problem in this stage is that you don't really know what you're doing. And to me, that was like, how did you know? It's like it just spoken to me. And he says it. Your first job is to sell. The stage one of the business, as he lays out here, your first job is to get the product ready enough to sell it. But don't worry about perfecting it. Sell it, then if it sells, then make it better. One of the things that can affect a founder is this need to be perfect, the need to know the what ifs. And he advises this. So people who are obsessed with playing the what if game are destined to never get out of the starting gate. In doing a brain scan, Bill Gates, the one thing I zeroed in above all else was his strategy for getting Microsoft software out to the public as quickly as possible. Bugs be damned. Because Gates' philosophy has been that Microsoft can always deal with the predictable bugs and customer backlash down the road, and the biggest Microsoft haters in the world would have to admit that it's a strategy that hasn't worked at all for badly for Bill and friends. And so the idea here is to apply a ready, fire, aim principle. Build the product enough ready to sell it. Don't waste time perfecting the product or planning for every contingency, since you don't know what will work. And then once the idea has proven itself in some way, then you know what to make adjustments from there. And getting things going quickly is more important than planning them perfectly. So get the product ready, then launch them. There will be plenty of time to perfect them later if they sell well now. So from this, as soon as I read this, I'm ready to start selling this thing. I've got something that's working here. I've got enough interest, but the book doesn't tell you how to sell it. Despite the fact that it has a chapter on copywriting, I guess it glances over the marketing side of on this stage. It didn't really detail out what exactly you need to work on. I think it was just assumed, but I guess it's because it's not really a sales and marketing book. It's more of like a guide kind of thing. And so I clearly at this point, I already knew what I need to work on next, is that I need to actually prove that people want to buy this thing. So now I know what to do. I know my priorities are. I just need to learn the how. So that's why I picked the book, One Page Marketing Plan in this case. This book really provides you this more structured, more simplified way of viewing how to market your product and how to actually make a sale. It's so simple that he literally created a one page for this. And there are 9 boxes that you need to fill. But if I were to summarize each of the boxes, is that first you have to figure out what is the market, who is your ideal customer, what is the compelling message that you want to give them, or what is the USP, how do you then deliver that message, so what is the media, how do you capture the potential customers, how do you then nurture the potential leads, how do you build trust to those leads, How do you then convert those leads? How do you fulfill the expectations? How do you deliver on the product? And how do you create repeat businesses with those customers? And how do you gain more referrals? It's a 9-step thing that he laid out in the book that really just simplifies what you need to work on to actually get started with sales and marketing. I would say like he changed the way I thought about sales and conversion, because he said to forget about the traditional kind of selling of this high pressure sales and instead adopt a more value-driven educational type of content. It's like he said literally in the book, by sending a continuous stream of value until they're ready to buy. And probably this is the reason why many YouTubers like Ali Abdal, Thomas Frank, and other educational channels are doing so well in selling their own products, is because they have built up enough of that trust in their audience that they can now start selling them. He also introduced the idea of creating irresistible offers, and there are like things that you need to go through. And one of them was like value stacking. It's like how do you stack so much things so that the price doesn't even matter at that point. So that changed how I even package what I'm working on right now, how to view social media in a different way and not just being from a consumer standpoint. I think this book, it's like if you're struggling with sales and marketing, I highly recommend this book. It's what helped me learn the foundation that I just need. Because at this point, when I read this last year, I'm now going over the niche side of marketing. And that could be the brand story, and that could be the copywriting, or even just the landing page. Like these are things that when people say marketing and sales, oh, you gotta just put out a landing page. I guess I need to understand how it works in the bigger picture before I can then start doing the niche topics. Which is I think that could be a good and a bad thing in some way. But I would argue is that because in the book Ready Fire Aim, in one of the chapters there, it's about creating your optimum selling strategy. And he also gave you this 4-step process that you can go through. He laid out the main strategy to use, and that is to copy your competitors. Now, when I look back, like the first time you read that, like obviously that's what you do, right? But now after reading this book, it kind of just changed the way I think about it. Is that if you just continue to copy your competitors and not understand what they're trying to do, then you'll fail at imitating whatever they're doing. And so, to give you an example, is that if you don't understand how Mr. Beast creates his videos and you try and imitate it, but you don't understand how it works, how he does these things purposefully, then it's not gonna work.
Guys, every little thing I know about getting views on YouTube, and I know thousands, tens of thousands of creators have watched those, and literally, that's the reason why they're making $10,000+ a month, because they're just like, oh, Jimmy just literally laid it out. I just followed.
This book really lays it out for you, the foundation that you need. Just understanding why we need to do each of these steps. And where the landing page fits into that step is also covered into this book. And that's a bit too much, but anyway, I think this is so long, 25 minutes. Again, if you reach the end of this video, check out the video that I made last week about the project that I built in 2024. And hopefully you may be interested in the lessons that I learned along the way. So check that out.